Alright, what's up, yins guys? I'm gonna make a video here about something kind of funny that I seen on the local television news. Me and a girlfriend were watching. This dude on PayPal, this actually made the news and I guess become newsworthy, because they put weird stuff on the news and funny stuff. He was checking his PayPal account and yeah, they showed on the news his PayPal statement. It said he had $92 quadrillion. You know how much money others. The guy joked about helping this country pay off the national debt, but yeah, that's was one hell of a computer glitch, I think. That's for sure. I actually had this theory, though, that somebody decided to be a prankster and just do that just to be cute and do that to a person just to get a rise out of them, but do something to be funny, and they're probably not even thinking about, oh, you can't even see the look on the guy's face or whatever. But well, it did make the news. Something like that. I don't know. What do you guys think? Part of me thinks it can be a computer glitch if somebody did incrementally messed something up and the computer processed it or something. You know. I got some ideas rolling around in my head, but not an exact example. But I can see that if you put the wrong thing in, and a computer could, you know, if the wrong mathematical increment was in the computer, that such an extreme amount like that, it almost looks like somebody did that on purpose to be cute for whatever reason, even though they can't see the look on somebody's face. $92 quadrillion. I mean, if that were me, I wouldn't even dare try to spend that, because I would know it was some kind of mistake. And say I went out and bought a car with that, and all of a sudden say I buy an $80,000 car. Oh, I go, oh yippee, I buy an $80,000 car, and then all of a sudden I get a letter, it's some kind of mistake, I'm $80,000 overdrawn, and they want that money back. You know what I mean? But I remember I had when I was working one of my best paying jobs, which it's when you get one pretty good one in your 20s with profit sharing bonuses and everything, and you're above minimum wage. That's nice, and you held it for about 10 years. But now it's like, you know, so jobs that you get now. But I remember in my bank and my checking account one time, all of a sudden, I didn't write no kind of checks over or anything, and all of a sudden I get this letter that I'm like a couple $1,000s overdrawn one time. I called the bank, I'm like, what the? Well, I didn't tell them what the WTF, but I had a lot of vocabulary, like, let's just say I was saying shucks, golly, son of a gun, and gee whiz. Oh yeah, I had a lot of profanities going, which maybe you guys did. If any of you guys rather I not swear on YouTube. If you guys got like a mistake in your bank account that you were a couple $1,000s overdrawn, if you never swore before, you'd be swearing. But anyway, called the bank and all that, and they tried to say I wrote a bunch of checks to cash right at the you know, window. I asked them again, okay, is that what you're telling me, that I actually wrote two cash to myself? And they were saying yeah. And I asked them again, are you sure that's what you're telling me? And then they said yeah. And I said, well, then that means if I do something, you should be if I indeed did do that, I would be getting canceled checks, right? And they were like, yeah, right. And I says, well, we'll see if somebody, you know, somehow got a hold of an old checkbook that I threw away, which I'd never throw away whole checkbooks if I ever did. If I changed my bank account, you know, some people change banks and all that. And I never did that unless somebody, you know, it was got a hold of my checkbook and took checks from the middle. Like I knew people who their ex-boyfriends or ex-girlfriends or whatever done these things, you know, because of drug use, taking checks out of the the middle of a checkbook, say if they had a drug habit or a gambling habit or whatever. But, and you know what, I didn't have really all kind of people coming into my place or any kind of thing. I'm like, you know, what the hell, did somebody do something else? But anyway, I told him, I said, yeah, I'll be getting canceled checks back, and I'd find out, see if anybody signed my name to it, or they were dumb enough to sign their own name, like like on it or something, like, you know, how you write somebody a check for legitimate paying or something, you sign your name to cash it. If somebody did something like that, like to rob me or something. And then they said, yeah, okay, we'll call you back. We're going to find out about this and call you back. All of a sudden, they called me right back and said it was a computer glitch, and they said they actually waived, you know, the charges, like, that they were going to put on me for bounced checks, and they owed me a little money, you know what I mean? Because I had checks I wrote out, but I didn't write any over. You know, so I understand glitches can happen, you know what I mean? I figured, well, I didn't want to get on that subject. For some reason, it popped into my head when I was talking about the PayPal thing. That was funny, but yeah, I figured I'd share that with you guys. I did have a computer glitch, you know what I mean? And since I was in my, you know, maybe mid or late 20s, and I had my good paying job, I had this, of course, I had this big ego where, if any of you guys were black or another race watching, you'd understand where I'm coming from, and I understand, you know, where you get this. Say you got a good paying job if you're another race, or if you got long hair, and if that shit happens to you, I was like, oh yeah, somebody resented the long-haired hippie that got into a job above minimum wage with overtime and all that, and they don't like it, so they're trying to fuck with me, you know what I mean, so to speak. And yeah, that's basically how I was thinking, you know what I mean? And hey, you know, if that happened to me now, I'd be thinking that same thing. But I guess I had a idea about that maybe people saw me writing checks for a couple of $100s, because I used to go to Borders and Barnes and Nobles and spend like when I got into other kinds of music other than metal, I started shopping at Borders bookstore, and which I kind of was sad that when I found out that it was closing, and it all made the news they were closing and all that. But I used to go there in Barnes and Nobles to buy jazz and some classical and other kind of vocals and all that, and other kind of blues and all that I was buying. So I was spending a lot of money on CDs. So I figured that maybe somebody in a bank wanted to launder, steal money, and maybe they thought they were probably not looking at it. Well, I was right in the kind of like mid 30,000 a year bracket because of my overtime or whatever, and they probably weren't looking at how much I make a week and a month. They probably saw the checks that were maybe a couple $100s that I was writing, and I was buying CDs, and they were looking at that, and they probably thought I was richer than I was, and they probably thought they'd steal money from me and say I wrote checks to cash, and or I was doing all kind of other stuff, and I wouldn't know the difference, you know. I mean, somebody was somebody under their some kind of presumptions that they thought that they can just get away with that. And if you, like me, watch and that happened to you, you know, I mean, hell, you know, you wouldn't just pay it, especially, you know, if you're still making above minimum wage and you got that much stuff bouncing, you know damn well you didn't do it, and you'd be like really fumed. What do you really fumed? Really curse words and everything else. You'd be wanting to get to the bottom of that right away, because not only would you say I ain't paying that shit, you'd be saying I couldn't pay that shit if I wanted to, because you know what I mean. And whenever they were probably looking at my account activity, you know what I mean, of my spending habits in the bank, you know what I mean, because I had a debit card too. Some nitwit probably trying to steal money, some nitwit amateur trying to steal money, and then they say you were even making X amount of dollars. It was maybe right at minimum wage even, and maybe you were moving things over to spend extra money yourself, writing checks. They might have been looking at a certain dollar amount, and maybe amateurs, they're just reading stuff on a computer, and they think, oh, they're writing checks for this amount of money. You know, you might have been paying couple $100 for your car insurance, and maybe you don't even make above minimum wage, and they see a couple of transactions. They're just looking for people that look like they're rich or something that they can steal from, and they figured, even richer people do bounce checks. Hell, when I was in my intro to business class, because it counted as elective when I was in college, my instructor was talking about how companies they called it check kiting. Big corporations even do it and stuff, and they know full well they're writing checks ahead of time and tactically, for whatever reasons, because they want to keep doing business. And well, there's a lot of other things, reasons why they do it too, which is shady. I don't want to go into that, but that would be for another future video about hypocrisy and crookedness and all that shit. But yeah, but anyway, this was originally a video about PayPal, but I imagine too, you guys with your PayPal accounts, my point to yammering about that thing that happened to me. So I imagine you guys can probably have a PayPal account. If people are capable of putting too much money into your account, they're capable of say you didn't hardly do shit in the account, try to say you did this and that and you didn't, and try to steal your money and shit too. You know what I mean? Not that I'm saying PayPal or bad people or anything, that somebody in there either makes a mistake or somebody within the organization trying to steal money, which if they get caught they can go to jail for a pretty long time. Of course, and at the very least, if you make too many mistakes and all that, whether you work for PayPal or work for a bank, you can even get fired if you're doing too many things by accident. But if you get caught stealing, hell, there's so many people that stole money that never even got caught, you know what I mean? But well, I figured yeah, that little news story about PayPal will give me an excuse to talk about a couple of other things like that anyway too. But like I says, if accidents happen either in a bank or a PayPal, and if your hair is longer or if you're another race that doesn't even bother anybody, I mean, I can see when you see things like that happen, or if you have another, like any reason, you know what I mean, that you're selling things online and you have any information about what you look like on there or whatever too, other than stuff that pertains to your sales. If you put anything color with, like any colorful ad or have your picture up or anything. But anyway, yeah, but when you deal with banks or PayPal, you should make sure you always keep your records. Try not to do too much activity. Try not to do more activity than you can keep track of. If you I think it's possible to do so many things at one time. You want to run around and have a good time with your money, and then if you do so many things that you don't even remember what the hell you did, you're leaving yourself wide open to be cheated or ripped off also, you know what I mean? That would be like going into a war zone without body armor, and maybe without a shirt on, totally bare-chested, and say, go ahead and shoot me, not good, you know what I mean? And yeah, watch out for any kind of other things, scams like online or by telephone or anything, that they want certain information from you, that they can steal your identity and clean out your account, or all of a sudden you'll get a bank, like you borrowed money from some bank somewhere out of nowhere and you don't know nothing about it and stuff like that, that's common sense. But I think that's about it for this video. You get the basic idea. See you next